Hello.
Hi, we are Doctors Jennifer and Jake Dean Hill, and this is the Doctors J&J podcast. We are so excited to be here with you today. We are both licensed therapists. We work together, we live together, we lead together, so we understand the challenges of being able to work peacefully and harmoniously together. We have come up with a simple, concrete solution. It's called Wear Two Crowns.
Wear Two Crowns is all about equity, learning how to bring out the strengths in each other, and learning how to share the power in the relationship so that we can all be better together. Each week, we're going to give you tips and tools and strategies and even personal stories to help you wear two crowns. And we're going to invite experts in the field of relationships that will help to educate us, inspire us to wear two crowns as well.
Yes. So tune in each week. We look forward to our time together.
Hello, and welcome back to the Doctors J&J podcast.
We have been talking about parenting for the last couple of episodes, and we're going to continue talking about parenting when our parents get to an age where it's kind of the circle of life.
Absolutely.
And we go into, instead of being the cared for, we become the caretakers.
Right. Or needing to be caretaken of.
Yes. So in terms of our parents as they get older, in fact, we read something that said when we reach the age of 40 and our parents reach the age of 70, we should be having these conversations.
Absolutely. And one of the stats too is 1 in 4 Americans are caring for their elderly parents. And then there's also what's called the sandwich generation, which means you're sandwiched in between caring for your kids as well as caring for your parents. And this can put a tremendous amount of stress on the marriage, the relationship, the family, the resources. So, but I have to talk about the movie we just went to go see.
Yes.
Because this is perfect. We just saw the new Star Wars movie, and it's The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Grogu,
Am I saying that right? I love that little
Otherwise
guy.
known as Baby Yoda.
Baby. Yep. I may or may not have a doll on him. He's really, really cute. And what I was struck with is the caretaking between the Mandalorian and Grogu. And a profound line was said after Grogu had taken care of Mandalorian. He had gotten sick. I don't want to do a spoil alert for any of those who haven't seen it, but the Mandalorian may or may not recovered. And he stands on top of the hill and says, "This is the way. The old shall be taken care of by the young. This is the way." And I found that to be really profound. I think we have, in some ways, we've lost our way in this with families and being able to know how to care for the elderly without being overwhelmed. It's very challenging. And we've also not talked a lot about the rewards of that.
Yeah, a lot of cultures around the world, this is a no-brainer.
Right.
And a lot of cultures and countries have multiple generations in a single home, and that whole process of the young caring for the old is just a natural part of their culture. And I think we have lost that. I think we had some of that in America in years past.
Correct.
But I think that has changed. And I think as the circle of life goes and the patriarchs and matriarchs of families become, aged and to the point where they are needing care and they are coming to the ending years of their life, we need to figure out how to go through that process. And it's difficult for a lot of clients we work with.
Absolutely. And one of the things...
And you have firsthand
experience on this. I sure do, with my parents too. It's typically not very tidy, so we're just going to reassure everybody in that. There typically needs a team to help the families navigate through some of this difficult time, some good friendships. So we had all of that. We had some good professional help. We also had some amazing friends that helped, especially through the passing of my parents, and being able to keep ourselves grounded and trying to do the right thing. One of the things we've seen is that typically children really want to do right by their parents, especially when there's a healthy bond and there's a lot of healthy relationships. But there's not a lot of tools and resources to help kids know how to do this. And sometimes there's a lot of shame because not everybody is capable of bringing in elderly family into the home. It's kind of more rare than it is common. So it's how do we provide the support? How do we respect the autonomy? How do we know when to move in and provide a little bit more direction? So those are a lot of things that we help people navigate and work through. But yes, with my parents, I definitely had some experience with that.
And
10-year process.
It's hard because there's a lot of different relationships. Some people have really close relationship with their parents and it feels more natural to move into a caretaker role. Others have a very more distant relationship with their parents. And so transitioning to where parents become dependent on their children can be a challenge.
Yes, especially with my parents who were very insistent. They did not want to be a burden to me. And I had to respect that, even though I was like, it's not a burden. I'll take this on. Come move by me. We'll figure this out. But they were very insistent and not wanting to be a burden, but they also really wanted to pass away in their home. And they were both able to do that. And that's also really rare because it's usually bringing in care for out of the home into the home is typically more expensive. And if you don't have the resources, that's hard to do. So we happened to be in two different states, which made it exceptionally hard.
Oh, yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of clear communication as far as, other than those two things, as far as what they wanted, there wasn't a lot of clear communication how we could assist, if at all. So we had to really just ask ourselves, what do we want? What do we want to do during this process? And how do we want to honor our value system with caring for our parents and while honoring their decisions and their choices.
Which kind of comes to our first area that we want to talk about is when it comes to this process, we really promote a partnership.
Absolutely.
Where one doesn't become just in charge. Now I'm in charge of my parents, and obviously being, the power of attorney medically or financially, or being the executor of the estate, obviously after they pass. So that is a role. But when parents are in a place where they are coherent and they are able to partner and have conversations, it's so important that you have those early on. But I notice a lot of parents don't want to have those conversations.
We see that a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, guardedness or privacy, which is completely understandable.
Well, I think a lot of it too is just the reality. Like, I don't want to talk about the reality of me needing care or my health failing or being dependent, right? A lot of most adults like being independent.
Right.
And losing their license or losing their ability to live in their home. And I think that was a good point where you said with your parents, they wanted to stay in their own home, which adds challenges and blessings in that. But if you're not having conversations to say, hey, this is what would be good for us as your caregivers or as your children, and this is what you would like as the parent, if you don't have those conversations, then you're just kind of making it up as you go.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, too, sometimes things can come into play that makes it impossible for you to have those conversations. And one of the things with my mother, my dad had already passed on, but she started getting vascular dementia, right? So it didn't, she's so smart. She overrode it for several years. And I was the only one saying, this is not my mother. She is struggling, and she was duping professionals. And even when she was in the height of her illness, that she was still issued a California state driver's license by California. And so she was insistent that she
business.
She could drive when she couldn't even figure out how to start her car. So we did some things that helped to respect who she was and her autonomy, that she could do these things. At the same time, keep other drivers and citizens safe in California. We just unhooked her battery and different things like that, right? But
Hid her keys.
Right, because she struggled to ever have a rational conversation. So that was really hard on me as the daughter. And pretty soon it became people that came around and caregivers. My suspicion of her health became validated. And then we got a clear diagnosis. And it was a really chaotic, painful time to not ever have just that rational conversation that says, I know I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? We kind of had to be sneaky and kind of work around, and we had some near disasters and all of this. But once we got a care team in place, it did feel really good. And as far as caregivers, we talk about the team. It takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to help our parents exit peacefully and productively. And it did. It took a huge village, everything from a beautiful hospice team to caregivers and friends that came around and siblings, other family members too that can assist. So we understand this time can be very anxiety producing. It was for me. I'm thinking I'm there. She's in California. I'm in Washington. I'm like, how do I get down there? Resources were limited for her. So we were trying to conserve resources. You did a great job with helping so much with that, manage that.
It was such an honor. And I think both spouses feel that way, where our in-laws become obviously our parents after many years. And that's the beauty. And hopefully, you have that as a couple where you guys can be a team.
Right.
In the process of caring for them and making decisions, because there's a lot of details. And one of the things we just want to encourage you is to have those conversations, plan out what resources do we have available?
Right.
Do we have the resources to stay in home? Do we have the resources to, go into a facility? Can you pool resources to move into a place that has maybe an adult dwelling unit on site? Otherwise, we used to call it the mother-in-law quarters, but it's more of a very common thing where you have an ADU or another dwelling unit on your property where they can be close by. Obviously, that's not for every family, and not every family wants to be that close or involved. And there's a lot of decisions to be made. Even this whole concept of, do I want to stay as the kids and them as my parents, or do I actually want to be in that full caregiver mode? And some people just never want to play that role, right? They don't want to do some of those difficult tasks with their parents.
And sometimes in the case of myself, my parents absolutely did not want me in that role, right? It was compromising to their dignity, and they did not want that. And so it is interesting how everybody is different. So the first thing is no shame on how you need to do this that is healthy for you and for your parents. But you're right, Jake. There needs to be conversations. There needs to be really honest, open conversations, especially when everybody has their health in their minds. That's ideal.
You don't want to wait until we don't know which way's up and we've lost some of our cognitive abilities to be able to have these conversations. But a lot of people struggle to have the conversation because they feel like it's premature, or they feel like, oh no, we're talking about death, or we're talking about when I'm going to lose capacity. And I think it comes too close to home. And part of me just goes, let's just normalize that and say, hey, the circle of life is the circle of life. And we're all going to get there.
This happens to everybody.
Death. Everybody dies.
Everybody dies. Yeah, I don't know why we continue to avoid the topic, but I will say it's the greatest human fear, death.
It is.
It's the greatest human fear. So when we continue to deny that we're not going to die, there comes a sense of relief, and it can soothe some of the anxiety that we all experience. But ultimately, you're just delaying the inevitable. Right.
Your mom definitely struggled to talk about any possibility of her passing away.
Right. I remember at one moment I was a little exasperated. I'm like, Mom, everybody dies. This is going to happen to everybody. And I remember her going, oh, it's just way too soon for me. And that Jake, you and I were just like, oh my goodness. So we stopped trying to have those rational conversations.
Right.
So when those
Not everybody can.
And then it starts to become disrespectful when you try to have them talk or partner with you when they don't have either the capacity or the desire. And we found ourselves having to honor that. My dad, who passed away 10 years prior, was just delightful to talk with. He had a horrible disease, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, big mouthful, but basically it's a hardening of the lungs. And so it's a slow suffocation process over 5 years.
Horrible.
Yeah. So his mind was very much intact. And we actually had to help make some decisions for him when it came to how he would like to go. He couldn't sustain the lung capacity was slowly closing on him. So it was incredibly anxiety producing. Obviously, it's like getting buried alive, right? So we had some difficult decisions and conversations with that as far as a death with dignity, some assistance with that too. And he did opt to go in and hospice and
It's emotional.
Yeah.
Which is okay, hon. This is a topic that is hard for a lot, and some are maybe dealing with this right now. And
well, the thing is, you never get over not having your parents. You know, you always want the love of a mother and a father.
yeah.
And yeah, this is, even though it's been time passed on this, it's still sad and hard, isn't it, to realize that your family is your parents are no longer with you. So yeah, and just overcome right there with some emotion when it came to thinking about that decision that he had to make. And it says, I'm ready to go. Can I have a little assistance in doing this comfortably? So, and that was such a
tough decision,
tough conversation, saying my last goodbye to him, those types of things, right? Those are things that you never forget. And it's so honoring to be able to show up for all of that, right? But it's hard. It takes a lot out of you.
It does.
But oh my goodness, I would not pass up any of that time I had, any of those conversations. I'm very grateful to my dad that he really had those tough conversations. He bravely stepped in to that space. He talked to his pastors and friends and kids and was able to just to make some tough decisions that we didn't have to make for him. That was a huge gift.
In fact, we kind of got a little mad at him because he seemed like a little too excited to go see Jesus.
Yeah, he was excited to get to heaven. I'm like, slow down, Dad, slow down.
So we were like, hey, we're still down here, gonna miss you.
Right.
And boy, is he missed, and your mom as well. And
right.
But what a beautiful experience you had in having the opportunity to just spend some time with your dad and your mom in their final years, just being not their full-time caregiver, but being just there to, be a part of the process.
Just be a part of the process. And try to figure out what you need as a child to be able to say goodbye, right? And to be at peace with maybe some difficult situations that have happened or whatever. And I felt that with both of my parents, and that was really fulfilling for me. But I would say too, it was so rewarding. I just, they talk about this, and we came across a great article. It was with the New York Post, of the majority of adults caring for their parents say it actually helps to heal their relationships. And that was definitely something that I experienced, just such a tender, loving connection with both of my parents as they became more vulnerable and being able to share and hear different things that they hadn't shared with me, in their earlier years in parenting with me.
Including cherry ice cream.
My dad was a nut for black cherry ice cream. Yeah, that was one of his last few meals, was he wanted his ice cream. So,
but that's a good point you bring up about the healing of relationships, because like I said earlier, everybody has a different relationship with their as adults with their parents, and some are very close, some are distant.
Right.
Some have pain, some have things that had to be forgiven. And sometimes children are faced with dealing with some of that unforgiveness or dealing with some of that pain in the midst of failing health and
failing health.
Failing health and then obviously faced with, I have some things to resolve with my parent, and a lot of times we're kind of forced into that position because we're, as a child, we're kind of like, we're the family member who is needing to step in. And I would just encourage you to lean into that, because it's an opportunity, whether it's forced or not, to really have difficult conversations or have forgiveness or make peace. And a lot of people who don't take advantage of that after they have passed, it becomes a real regret.
It really does. That's an excellent point, Jake, is being able, it's not just about the parents, it's about the child too. Making peace, like I said too, is saying their goodbyes, but being able to maybe say some last words or anything that you'd like to communicate. And what we would recommend is stay centered in love. You know, this is hard and it's stressful, but to be able to get the love of friends and your partner or other family members or whatever as you go through this is critical. Your spiritual community, religious community.
Yes.
We need the support as we are letting go of a relationship that we have never known life without, right? So that's the challenge that we have to come into, where our parents, they knew what life was like without us. We don't know that.
Right.
We've only known our life with them in it.
Well, and the other thing is some parents don't trust their kids.
Right.
And so then you're dealing with that, where it's like parents who don't trust their kids to reveal financial information or to partner with them on their care. And so it becomes this struggle. And one of the things that we would just really encourage you is to get help, whether it be in therapy, whether it be other resources where they care for, aging adults, where you can learn about things like dementia or the signs of that, or learn about how to process through this and know how to deal with that. There was so much information that we gathered as especially your mom went through her dementia process, and how do we deal with, different things that come up, when they talk in a way that is silly, right? Where it doesn't make sense. And do we try to convince them of the truth, or do we kind of go with that without mocking them, but without distressing them?
Absolutely.
There's so many things like that when you can get the information and the help and the resources, it helps going through that process so much easier.
It really does, because it's a scary process. It is a scary process. It brings out the little child, I think, in all of us as we see our parents becoming very vulnerable and fragile. Again, that's not a sight that we're accustomed to. We're accustomed to, the parents typically being the strong ones and pick us up, lift us up, take care of us. So embracing that shift takes a grieving process for both sides. And I remember having to just go through that as I saw some more vulnerabilities come out with both my parents as their strength waned, intelligence, different things, cognitive functioning, and being able to sometimes take that grief to someplace else because they don't know, not to mention they can't necessarily handle that. They're literally trying to exit a failing body, right? And so they struggle to be able to help you in your grieving process. So be able to find support for you as you go through this is key. I really want to talk about some of some of the fun moments that we had too.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's talked about enough with.
Yeah. I mean, there's challenges with caring
Right.
and making those decisions, but the rewards too are awesome. You've had some amazing experiences.
You too. As we went down, I was the trustee of the estate. So we did a lot of management of that, a lot of caretaking, a lot of setting up of the caregivers. But that was such a beautiful experience meeting the caregivers. Oh my goodness. Hospice workers, caregivers. You guys are just angels on earth. So many times they were just so supportive of the process and on my speed dial as I'm going, now what's happening, So such a beautiful team that we had in place, and sometimes then not such great help. And that's where you just have to either fire or rearrange or move forward, but find people that can support you in the process. And one of the things I remember with my dad, we had a hospice worker that immediately, she was just harsh and cold. And I was like, I can't work with this person. And they were so great. They immediately assigned a different nurse caregiver to us that we just loved and really helped us through the process. Because again, as you're going through this, there's so much anxiety. Like, am I doing a good job? Is this working? Are they in pain? Sometimes they can't communicate those things, right?
Right. No,
But I found that really.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I found that really rewarding. Just being able to learn that whole process and find good help, and that people that were able to walk alongside of you, not just physically but emotionally as you went through it.
Yeah, that was powerful just to watch that process. And I think you did such a good job of listening to your heart in that and being able to speak up and saying, that doesn't feel good. Can that be different? And sometimes people just kind of suffer and go, we got to have Nurse Ratchet, and she's making this even harder.
Yeah.
But the other thing is a lot of couples are challenged with how do you support your spouse going through this? And I think this is where we want to talk about how Two Crowns comes into this picture of caring for aging parents. And I think it was such an honor for me to walk through this process with you as your spouse. And obviously I love your parents dearly. And I was such an honor to go through this process and to help how I could. But it's so important to have important conversations in terms of what you need. And I think if you can figure that out, like what would be the most supportive to your spouse going through that. And if you are the ones whose parents are going through this process, is stopping long enough to go, this is what would feel good, or this is what I need.
Yeah, you have to direct your partner too to how to help you. The problem with that, and I've found myself in this place many times, I didn't know what I needed because I had never been here before. And that's where it's helpful when your partner can do some emotional organization. Like, okay, Jen, what do you need? How can I help? How would this work? And sometimes couples are great at that, and sometimes not so good. That we were not so good at that. I couldn't quite communicate it. I kind of more would find myself just either freezing and shutting down. And then Jake would go into turbo mode and start working and doing everything.
Had to fix it.
Right. And so emotionally, I'm completely overwhelmed. What I needed, and I was able to ask for that periodically, probably more now, but is comfort.
Yeah.
Right. As things have settled, we just settled the estate and everything last March of 2026. And it's been interesting, this kind of 10-year journey. I feel like I've probably cried more the last couple months than I have in years, because your body starts to let down and you start to feel the loss that your body won't let you feel because you've got these really important tasks in front of you. And there's times I have been overwhelmed with tears, and I've just crawled up in your lap, and I'm like, this is what we're going to do. And you don't even ask anymore. You're just like, oh, I was just probably,
get over here.
Yeah, just probably thinking about her mom or dad or whatever.
Yeah, but it's overwhelming. Obviously grieving now that they're gone, but even during the process of the caring process was overwhelming. And all the decisions and all of the stages, because the decline happens sometimes very quickly, sometimes slowly, and that can be overwhelming. And so you have to make space for that.
Right. As a couple. And if you don't know what you need, I'm going to tell you right now, what you need when you're hurting is always comfort.
Yeah.
The antidote to pain is comfort. And so whatever that looks like for you, sometimes I needed time alone. Sometimes I needed time with Jake. Sometimes I needed time with my friends, girlfriends. Sometimes I just needed to laugh and not talk about it, but comfort. And you can't wait like through the entire process. In my case, it was about 10 years of caring for both the parents, and not a ton of care work. Cause again, I was up in Washington and they're in California, but back and forth, thinking about them, regular calls, meeting with caregivers, spending extended time down there.
It was the emotional.
It was a lot of the emotional weight too. Like, are they okay?
Right.
Is the cameras working in the house to make sure that everything's working? And are they in any kind of pain? Right. So it's all that emotional weight that feels heavy to carry and also very rewarding and a sense of responsibility. We had to stop many times throughout this process and find the joy.
Yes.
And
you were so good about that.
You joined in right away with me. And I remember we did one trip with our kids, Derek, and got to meet Derek, our son-in-law, got to meet my mother and my daughter, McKenna. And we went to Dairy Queen. Do you remember that? We still laugh about this. And
she hadn't left the house for months.
Right. But she suddenly wanted to go to Dairy Queen and wanted to get an ice cream. And she had her little dog, Juliet. And we ran and got her some ice cream, and she was eating it in the car. And she had little Juliet.
Who's white.
White. Little Juliet poodle. And Juliet is sitting on my mom's lap, and she's kind of oblivious to the cone dripping and everything onto Juliet. Juliet was a mess from the ice cream sundae.
She was a chocolate vanilla swirl by the end.
Absolutely. My mom had it all over her, but she was having so much fun eating that ice cream. Oh. We were having fun. It was just some fun memories and moments like that we just hold on to. And we still laugh about, is just the joy, and really just so much sadness. So always look for the joy to bring you comfort, the humor. We did that a lot.
We did. And those were such fond memories. And she talked about it, and and everyone was amazed that, what, you took her out of the house to ice cream? And it was so worth it.
Yeah.
And even if we had to give Juliet a bath afterwards.
Yeah.
But man, there's so much challenge that goes with this, but there's so much that can be rewarding. And I think, like you said, we made the determination that says, we're going to have fun.
Right.
And we're going to enjoy this process. We're not going to dread it. And we just want to encourage you. There's so much that goes into that. And it's such a beautiful circle of life that happens.
Right.
And we just want to encourage you to embrace it. And let's give them a crown jewel.
Yeah. It's, I think the biggest thing though is my crown jewel is comfort yourself as you go through this. And for me, it was some getaways. It was I remember once we went down and got a really great hotel with a lazy pool in it, and we had lazy river in it, and we just enjoyed that and had some fun with that. Couldn't do it every time, but there was times, especially when it's getting really intense, we're like, this is a good use of resources. We are going to do a little extra pampering. So I would definitely say crown jewel for me is find the moments of joy to bring you comfort through a very difficult time.
Good self-care. The other crown jewel I would say is just try as much as you can to make this a partnership,
right?
A healthy partnership between you and your parents, and say, let's end this process well together as a team, and not be afraid of the topic, and just make it a beautiful time.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to cry throughout this process. That's how you're going to relieve yourself of the tension, the anxiety, the pain. It's a beautiful release of emotion. We're one of the few species on the planet that can cry, and it literally releases toxins in your body.
Yes.
So don't be afraid to cry. And then, of course, the antidote to pain is comfort.
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah.
And we just hope this was helpful. And pass it along to others who may be helped by it too, or may be going through this process even right now.
Right.
And we just look forward to seeing you next time.
Yes. Remember to live, love, and lead better together. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.